Please be seated. Gmar Chatima Tova, Shana Tova, everyone. One of the things that I used to do since I was a little kid is I used to count the Al Hets on Yom Kippur to try to figure out how much time we had left. And I discovered very early in my life that if I started dividing them by half, because half of them were in English, half of them were in Spanish, the day didn't go quicker. It was exactly the same amount of time. And then came the new Maxor, which is amazing because they don't give us a full list of Al Hets. They divide it throughout the entire day. And so it's much smoother. But I still have problems with Al Het because there are some sins listed there, not only that I have never committed, but I can't understand. I mean, I can't get past the English. It took me about 5 years to figure out what forbidden trysts actually meant. This is actually true. So, for the longest time, I wanted to come up with my own list of Al Het that we should recite on Yom Kippur. And just to spur you, I only have 3 new ones for this Yom Kippur, but I think they're important. And since speaking about sin is a very serious thing, I would like to start by lighting it up a little bit and telling you a story. A priest, a rabbi, an imam, and a Baptist minister go together into a retreat, a theological retreat. And to break the ice, they decide they're going to light a candle, each one of them. And as they're lighting the candle, they're going to tell each other a sin they've committed that nobody knows about. So they draw lots, and it is the priest's turn to go first. Now, they haven't seen themselves, they've never met each other before. And by the way, if you've ever been to one of these retreats, this is perhaps the most awkward moment that ever exists. Okay? So here comes the priest, says, "My name is Archbishop Sean O'Callaghan O'Brien." He lights a candle, and he says, "And the sin that nobody knows about me is that I have girlfriends in different cities. Not only do I have girlfriends in different cities, I have a couple of children with them. And if the church found out, they would throw me out. They would send me to one of those places where they send the priests that misbehave. They're not nice places, so nobody knows about this." So then is a Muslim imam's turn. He says, "My name is Muhammad al-Qurani," and he lights a candle. And he says, "The sin about me that I've seen that nobody knows about is that I eat pork. And I drink beer once in a while. And if the people in my mosque found out, they would stone me. Literally." So here comes the evangelical minister and says, "Look, my name is Bobby Warner." He lights a candle. "And my sin that I've seen that nobody knows about is that I've embezzled millions of dollars from the ministry. That's how I bought the plane. And I go to Las Vegas every year and I gamble and I drink champagne and other things that I can't even tell you because I've never met you before, but that's my sin." And here comes the rabbi. "My name is Irving Schwartz." He lights a candle. "And my biggest sin that nobody knows about me is that I can't keep a secret." Yeah. You know, it's interesting, but We've all committed sins that we hope nobody ever finds out. Some of them are small, some of them are big. Some of them we spent our life trying to expiate somehow. And it's very difficult. But there's a sin that's prevalent in our generation that if I could add to that list of Al Het, I would say, for the sin that I've sinned against you by remaining silent. Think about it. How many times we've remained silent when we really needed to speak out? How many times we'd rather not give our opinion or say what we're thinking because we want to keep our friends? Imagine what a different place our country would be if people didn't remain silent. And throughout this year, I learned an incredible lesson from a woman named Rachel Pauline Goldberg, which many of you have heard her name. She is the mother of Hirsch Pauline Goldberg, which is one of the hostages that was brutally murdered in cold blood by Hamas. And I heard her in a podcast, the Promise podcast. I heard an interview by her where she talked about how she decided to keep on speaking, even though when it really weighed on her, it was like carrying an anvil on her shoulders to keep sharing with the world the pain of losing her child. But she thought it was important for the world to know. And she actually told a story. She said that she found courage in a story she heard from one of the survivors of the Nova Festival, from one of the kids that was hiding in one of the miklatim, in one of the shelters that are also bus stops. And she told the story of a Bedouin Muslim man that when he heard the rockets falling and people were in the miklat, in the shelter, and they saw Hamas approach, he went out. And he started telling them, we are all Muslims in this shelter, don't hurt us. We're Muslims, I am Muslim. And they beat him, and they tortured him. And he disappeared forever. Nobody knows what happened to him. But because he didn't remain silent, because he raised his voice, because he tried to do something, 2 or 3 children were saved in that shelter. 2 or 3 beautiful lives that will go on to have children and grow and become. He spoke in Arabic. He pleaded with them to no avail. But he spoke up. And Rachel says, if he had the courage to speak up, how should I not? How can I remain silent? And so I have that question for all of us. Do we have the luxury of remaining silent? It's a real sin. And the second sin I will add to the list of Al Hets is for the sin that I've committed by hiding. The story is told of a man, Moshe Stein, who's coming to the western frontier of the United States in the late 1800s. And he stops in a little town in one of the train stops. It's all dusty, there's horses outside, there's a saloon. Think a Western movie, or Carson City, whatever you want to think about. That's kind of the metaphor. And he goes into the saloon and there's a piano player, and they're swinging the beer across the bar. And he hears a whistle for the train, goes, runs to the train, boards the train. And these 2 very rough characters, with the beard sticking out, all disheveled, they walk into the car where he is. And they say, we heard there's a Jew by the name of Moshe Stein here. We saw your name in the passenger manifesto. So poor Moshe is like, oh my God, no. I left Europe for this. This is why I left Europe. I mean, should I tell them I'm Moshe Stein? Should I remain? So for 20 minutes, these guys, Jews, show yourself. We know you're here. We know your name is here. You're here. The tickets are so expensive. We know you boarded the train. You wouldn't have wasted the ticket. So Moshe Stein, raise your hand. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. You know, a couple of hours go by, and this goes on, and he's sweating, and they're going person by person, and they're getting to the front of the car. Finally, he jumps up and says, okay, I am Moshe Stein, and I'm a Jew. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And the two guys go, Baruch Hashem, we need you for a minyan. We can't hide. It is a sin to hide. You know, and the story of our people is filled with examples of hiding. Think of the story of King David. He hid half his life, running away from King Saul, who wanted to kill him. He was so jealous of him. Not to David's fault, by the way. It was all plotted by God. And he hides. And what about Elijah? He hides from Jezebel. He hides in that cave. And what about Jonah? Tomorrow afternoon we'll read it. Ben Super will read it. He hides. And what about our great-grandparents? And our family members who hid, not only in Christian Europe, but in the war. We have a history of hiding to save our lives, and that's okay. But you know what? At the end of that hiding, there's always redemption, which should teach us that sometimes we shouldn't hide, and that after all the stories and our own history that we know so well, the time of hiding is over. If there is something that you take with you this evening, is that we as Jews will hide no more, because that is also a sin. Because if we hide, they will find us. Because we're not so easy to miss. Thank God for many reasons. You know, just another little joke that I've told before, but it's my favorite joke in the world. The firing squad in Tsarist Russia is going to execute 2 Jewish men. And they're blindfolded, and they say to them, "You Jews, do you have any last words?" And one of them says, "Take this blindfold off me. I want to die like a man." And the guy next to him says, "Shloime, shh, don't make trouble." We can't hide. The time has come for us to make trouble. It's so important. And here's the last sin. So I don't want to keep you here all evening. For the sin that I have committed by honoring the past but ignoring the present. This is really a sin. How many people do we all know? Maybe it's one of us, maybe it's myself, who show up to Iskor, for example, for my parents' sake, because my parents would have loved it. I do it to honor their memory. What about us? What about the lives that we're living now? What are we doing for ourselves? If we come to synagogue once a year to honor the past and expect to get something in return with that single one time, it is like me trying to run a marathon without running a mile a day at least a year before. Trust me, it's not going to happen. And that's why it's such a sin. And it extends beyond synagogue attendance. Look at the monuments we build. You know, Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote in his book, The Sabbath, which is a masterpiece, that we as Jews distinguish ourselves because we build monuments in time. Shabbat, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, those are monuments in time. We never build monuments with brick and mortar until now. And of course we're going to do it, and of course we should do it. There shouldn't be a city without a Holocaust memorial. There shouldn't be a country that doesn't honor the memory of our brothers and sisters who perished. But we cannot do that in a vacuum. We cannot do that just thinking about the past and not living as Jews in the present, because that defeats the whole purpose. I'm not saying we should forget what happened. I'm not saying we shouldn't build memorials. I'm not saying we should stop remembering. On the contrary, memory needs to be conducive to action in the present. One of my colleagues, David Wolpe, I just read a quote by him that completely amazed me. He said, if I could choose one place in the world to take a Jewish child or a Jewish teen, it wouldn't be Auschwitz or Krakow or Warsaw. If I only had one choice, I would take them to Tel Aviv. Because I want them to see not what was done to the Jews, but what the Jews have done. Think about it for a second. This doesn't mean we shouldn't go. This doesn't mean we shouldn't participate in memory. But it does mean that there's so much that we can be doing to build our future that we don't, because we're stuck in memory. October 7th, we're running the risk of doing the same once again. We're going to freeze it in time as a one thing that happened randomly, the second largest tragedy in a single day since the Shoah. And we're building the monuments. By the way, one of the most beautiful projects that came out of October 7th is that synagogues throughout the world got together, and synagogues who participated in this project each received a Torah cover, which David Steinberg was carrying tonight, that has the name of one of the people who were killed on October 7th in the back of the Torah cover. The one that we got here at Temple Beth Shalom honors the memory of a 21-year-old soldier who died on October 9th in Gaza. Why is it important that his name is on the Torah cover? Because we're doing something active, Jewish, to remember him. Every time we take that Torah out in the morning minyan, twice a week, we read his name. Every time we read the Torah, we think of him. So we don't think of him in a vacuum. We think of him while living Jewish lives, completing the life that he couldn't complete. And that's why we cannot be stuck in the past. There's a beautiful story in the Talmud that Rabbi Eliezer says in the name of Rabbi Hanina. Amar Rabbi Hanina, Kol haomer כשפנה אשנה סופו שאינו פונה. Anyone who says, when I am free, I will study, that moment will never come. Anyone who says that means, tomorrow I will live a Jewish life, tomorrow I will do it. Tomorrow when I have time, we will never do it. One of the most beautiful things that we do at Temple Beth Shalom is that when our Heber Kadisha cares for one of our loved ones that pass away, the contribution that they collect for the service is put in a fund that is used to help children go to Jewish summer camp. And based on that idea, one of the most incredible things that has come about in recent years, beyond the Audrey Merkin Foundation that actually allows us to send children to the March of the Living, is the Dr. Leon Steinberg Campership Award, where we, through the generosity of Leon's family, are able to use his memory to send children to engage in Jewish life, which is Jewish summer camp. All of these things that we do here are incredible. Imagine if every Jew in the world invested all the energy that we put into the past, but into the future and the present. We would live in a completely different Jewish world. And those are the lessons that we have learned. Now, I could add another 5 or 10 scenes, but I'm not going to do it. I know you're hungry. I'm just kidding. I think these 3 are enough to think about tonight and to get us at least through tomorrow. And this is how we end. For all these sins, for the sin of silence, for the sin of hiding, and for the sin of honoring the past without thinking of the present, oh, forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam, Eloah slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. Gemar chatima tova, shana tova to everyone. And just one more little reminder. The year that will come, we say each other, may this be a blessed year, a sweet year, a year of health. I have news for you. It's always the same year. It's always a horrible year. What makes it good and blessed and healthy is you. You change the year. The year doesn't change by itself. And that's the one thing that we should concentrate on as we pray this Yom Kippur. Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova. We're going to continue praying Yale. I'm going to ask us to please rise as the ark is open. Page 223.